Hi everyone, it's Emily, and we are long overdue for another monthly pickups video. So I'm a little bit behind videos, so this month will be a little bit different in that I'll be sharing both my video game pickups as well as my figure pickups that are video game related. I have a lot of things to share, so I'll get right into it. So I have quite a number of games that arrived last month. Most of these were just pre-orders, but I also snagged some retro games that I've been wanting in my collection for quite some time. I'll get the obvious one out of the way. I did pick up Trails into Reverie for the PS5 last month. This was actually a sponsored unboxing with NES America, where I unboxed this Collector's Edition on the channel, if you haven't seen it already. I have not actually started playing this game despite this being one of my most highly anticipated releases of the year. I'll get a little bit more into this probably in my next video, but I've been experiencing a little bit of gaming burnout, and I really don't want that to kind of influence my impressions of, again, one of my most highly anticipated games of the year. So I've been holding off playing it for now. I keep rethinking that I want to replay Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4 before returning to Reverie. So I'm a little bit torn at the moment. We'll see what I end up doing, but I definitely want to finish this by the end of the year. But yeah, that's my only PS5 pickup. I've actually been playing a lot of my PS5, which I'll mention in an upcoming video soon. Mostly small indie games and Final Fantasy 16. So I'll be doing kind of another casual review video sometime soon on all those. But otherwise, I've been just waiting for the sales for PS5 games whenever they get deeply discounted. I did miss out on some of the Square Enix sales that they had recently. I'm kind of hoping we'll see some better sales closer to Black Friday, but we'll see what happens this year. Now for Switch games, these are mostly all pre-orders that finally arrived. I'll start with the limited production one. So I picked up Inscription from Special Reserve Games, and this is the Special Reserve box version. And this is actually a game that has really intrigued me. I'm not one who enjoys card-based games, but the horror aspects and the art, and I just hear how interesting this game is and different. I want to experience it. I really just couldn't resist getting the Special Reserve box of this. Even though I probably didn't need it, I did want it. I love how dark the artwork is, and definitely the creepy vibes, all the different creatures and things, and I'm really happy to have this in my collection finally. I do have one more game pre-ordered from Special Reserve that I'm still waiting on. It's Cult of the Lamb. I've ordered the Reserve version of that. I'm hoping that comes out within the next few months. Hopefully I'll be able to share that soon with you guys as well. But if you've played Inscription, let me know how it is, if it's as good as what I've been reading through reviews and whatnot, because it really sounds like an interesting experience. Now the last 3 Nintendo Switch games I picked up are all from PlayAsia, and I bundled them all together to qualify for their free shipping offer. The one that took the longest, which is why this is a little bit delayed, is Atelier Marie. And I actually got a code from Koei Tecmo, and I have played this already. What's interesting about getting the digital deluxe version versus the physical that's offered on PlayAsia is that the digital deluxe version comes with the original game in addition to the remastered version, which is physically on the card here. So it's a little unfortunate you don't get both versions on the physical card, but nevertheless, I really enjoyed what I've played of Atelier Marie so far. It's a fairly short game, and I actually binged this game in one sitting for about 6 hours for my first playthrough. There are some things I really loved about this game that were oddly addicting, and some things I do kind of wish were more like the modern Atelier games that I'm more used to. I'll definitely speak more about my experience in a casual review, hopefully sometime next week. But overall, I do recommend this game, but when you do go into it, do expect it to be a little bit different from the modern Atelier games like Tharja and Sophie 2. The other new release that I bundled in that PlayAsia order is Ghost Trick, and I'm really excited to finally own this game. It was one that I really wanted on the Nintendo DS for the longest time, but it was ridiculously expensive in the hundreds. And during the Nintendo Direct, when Capcom announced that this was coming to the Switch, I was just so ecstatic that it's become more accessible to modern audiences. And one of my friends on YouTube, Miss Mandia, reviewed this game and compared it to her beloved DS original version with this new kind of Switch port of it, and said that this port, or this kind of remaster, is really perfect and plays really well. There are some DS games that don't always translate well onto the Switch, like for example, The World Ends With You has some sort of funky controls, but apparently the Switch version for Ghost Trick plays really well. So I'm really excited to get to this and see what all the hype is about, because I've been so sucked into RPGs and indie games recently. I've been wanting to get back into point-and-click adventures and visual novel sort of games. So I'm hoping to play this one soon and share my impressions of this classic game. And the last Switch game that I picked up last month was the Asian English version of Final Fantasy X and X2, the HD remaster. So I actually own this game, the ESRB or the North American version, but unfortunately that one has X2 as a digital download code and it's not available on the cart. So I traded up and decided to buy this version, which is a little bit more expensive. I think when PlayAsia restocked it initially, it was around $40, $45, whereas you can get the ESRB or the North American version for around the 20s. But as a physical game collector, and as I've kind of mentioned in my previous videos, I do like having complete games on the cart, just for reassurance that I actually do own the games and there won't be some weird server barriers sometime down the line when it comes to accessing games I've already purchased. Now, if you do already own the PAL or the North American version of this game, is it really worth buying the Asian English version? I'll leave that decision up to you. For me, it was well worth it, and I'm really glad to finally have this. And since actually beating Final Fantasy 16 recently, I've been more interested in diving into all the Final Fantasy games. One of my friends, Sophie on YouTube, has been playing them backwards. So she started with 16 and then went to 15 and is making her way to 13, I think, right now. And that sounds like a really interesting plan, and one I might kind of steal from her in my own time. But we'll see, because I do have Final Fantasy 15 and I want to see kind of where I end up on the spectrum. It's either a game that you love or hate, it seems like. Now, last but certainly not least, when it comes to my gaming pickups, I managed to snag some childhood favorites of mine that I've been wanting to add back into the collection for quite a while. And sort of what spurred this on, other than I've been trying to actively look for Game Boy games for good deals online, is that on Twitter, the Analog Pocket was announced that all those who pre-ordered by a certain date, I forget what the date was, I'll have it on the screen here, are going to be shipping out soon. And so I was within that pre-order period. So I'm really excited for that to come in, and I really want to experience some of my old childhood favorites on there once again. And so the two games I picked up, first was Pokemon Yellow here. And this copy is actually kind of dingy, so I'm gonna have to clean it, but it does work fine. I checked it. So I actually still own the original Pokemon Yellow manual. I think I shared it on the channel before, but I don't think I'll ever be able to get the cardboard box for this because of just how absurdly priced all the Pokemon Game Boy games are. But I'm really glad, again, to have both of these back in my collection, and if there are battery issues with this down the line, I might have to look into how to replace those myself, but that's a thing to deal with for another day. And then the other Game Boy game I got was The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. So I still own my original copy of Oracle of Ages, and I've been wanting to buy back Seasons because these are some of my favorite Zelda games and definitely some of my favorite memories as a child playing these. I think unfortunately Seasons wound up in the trade-in pile to GameStop way long ago, but I'm happy to have it back. And it's cool that both of these games are available on the NSO now. I just really wanted to have both these games physically back in my collection and to experience on the Analog Pocket. And there are some other Zelda Game Boy games I do want to get that I never owned before, such as Link's Awakening DX on the Game Boy Color and the Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance. I know Minish Cap could be quite expensive, so I'm gonna probably bid my time a bit when trying to get my hands on that. So it's been fun kind of going back and collecting more actively these Game Boy games. And it's been interesting researching about how, for example, the ESRB rating has changed over the years. When Pokemon Yellow came out in 1998, that's when they first introduced the E for Everyone logo. And it's a pixelated white lettering, E for Everyone, that you see on the cart that I got. So this is one of the first print runs of Pokemon Yellow, I believe. In the next year, 1999, is when they started rolling out the non-pixelated black lettered ESRB ratings. So this is why you see some Pokemon Yellow game carts with the black lettered E instead of the pixelated white lettered one. So I found this interesting, and it was nothing that I really noticed as a kid back in the day. So it's cool kind of researching this again and getting back into Game Boy collecting. So now on to all of my RPG related figures that I wanted to share. So one figure that I've been featuring in the background of my videos this past month is Tharja from Fire Emblem Awakening. I can't believe I actually own this figure, and I got her at the price I did. All of the Fire Emblem Awakening figures are ridiculously expensive on the aftermarket, but I managed to get her for $175, including all shipping, from Tharja, and it was the first time I ordered from their English site. In the past, I've used them with proxy services to combine with other orders I had from other Japanese shops, but Tharja has a great selection at, I would say, very reasonable prices, and you don't have to worry about knowing how to use proxy services in order to order from them. So currently, it's very difficult to find Tharja for under 35,000 yen, or even sometimes 40,000 yen. One of the things about some of these Japanese shops is sometimes they offer figure options without the box and with some damage at a much reduced price. But my friend, the Miyazaki man, actually helped me find this Tharja for a great price on Tharja, and what ultimately led me to pull the trigger on her. And I'm really happy to have her on the shelf. I have her right next to Cordelia, who's one of my Grail figures, and also from Fire Emblem Awakening, and I think they look great together. So she does not come with a box, and it is difficult to resell figures without boxes, but I don't really plan to resell Tharja ever. And when it comes to damage, she did have a little bit of damage on her cloak there, but because it's positioned in the back, I actually don't see it. So I was willing to take a cheaper figure price for one that's damaged, and for damage I actually won't see. So this Tharja is really interesting in that she actually just lays there on the velvet base. She doesn't have any supporting pegs, so she's leaning against that stack of books there. So she can be a little bit wobbly if you move her around, and you have to position the book stand in the right way for her to lean appropriately. Otherwise, I think she could topple over fairly easily. The red skull there too is not attached to anything, just lies there on the floor, but it does add to her dark mage atmosphere. And our pose here is, of course, probably the highlight of her figure, and kind of how coy she's looking with her fingers in her mouth. So all in all, I'm really happy to have her. And Fire Emblem Awakening line is one I don't really see Good Smile or Mega House in this case reprint or reissue anytime soon. They might do it for Camilla because she's like in the thousands and ridiculously expensive, and she was also featured in Fire Emblem Engage as the DLC component. So I could see them reprinting or reissuing her, but Cordelia and Tharja I think were less likely, even though they are popular characters. So buying some of these secondhand figures is a bit of a gamble because of how many reissues are happening, especially recently with the kind of surge in figure popularity. But I'm really happy to have grabbed this specific Tharja, and I think if they were to reissue her today, she would be about the same price or a bit more expensive. Just, she wouldn't have been damaged, I guess, and she would have come with a box. But all in all, I'm really happy with the one I received. Now this next figure is a Nendoroid, and I'm starting to have a problem with Nendoroids. They are quite addicting to collect, so I've been trying to rein it in a bit. But I do have Sophie here from Sophie 2. I've been trying to get all the Atelier Nendoroids because I think they're adorable, and at this time there are not too many of them, so I'm hoping that we're not going to see many more that will tempt me to get them. But I really love Sophie's character design in Sophie 2. I love how her dark red hair contrasts with her blue coat, and I love her winking face too. I think that's probably her best faceplate. I do love the one where she has stars in her eyes too. So there's so many great options. So unlike the Ryza Nendoroid, Good Smile Company actually handled Sophie's Nendoroid production. So she's built much better than Ryza's figure, which I think is a plus because there are a lot of defects, especially when it comes to some of the paint and just build quality in Ryza's, that feels much better with Sophie's overall. So I'm really glad that Good Smile took over the production for Sophie's and produced a really great Nendoroid overall. Like most recent Nendoroids, she doesn't come with a whole lot of accessories or anything, but I think just having her staff in this book here are sufficient. And honestly, I don't really reconfigure my figures that often. I usually just kind of stick with a pose and keep them on the shelves. I might be inspired to change out some base plates or some of the hand joints and whatnot at some point, but I haven't really felt a need to at this point. But she looks so cute next to Ryza and the other Atelier girls, and I'm really happy with how this shelf is shaping up to be. Now my last two figures go together. So I have Crow here from the Kotobukiya 1/8 scale figure line that I've been actively collecting here on my shelves. And he's definitely one of my favorite characters in the Trail series. And it's really good to see more male representation when it comes to RPG figures, because we tend to just get the waifus and the female protagonist. So I'm really happy to have Crow feature in the background of my videos now. And you could really see the improvement of the Kotobukiya Trails line with each new release. I think Crow turned out great. Sometimes the male figures feel a bit lazy when it comes to the paint jobs and whatnot compared to their female counterparts, but I think they did a great job here with Crow. It definitely is his likeness, and I think his pose here is great. I ended up ordering this on Amazon Japan. Unfortunately, I didn't get the DX version, which was a Kotobukiya store exclusive. That would have been so much more expensive going through them instead of Amazon Japan when ordering, when it comes to shipping. And also the DX version, which has the 2 handguns, I think looked cool. His alternative faceplate wasn't my favorite of the ones that Kotobukiya has released. So I'm pretty satisfied with having just his standard version here with this weapon set. And the other Trails figure I picked up this month is the beautiful Renne, or Renne. Renne is a character I really adore, and it's so great to see kind of how much she's grown throughout the Trails series since Trails in the Sky. And I think out of all the Kotobukiya exclusive faceplates, I'm most sad I didn't get Renne's because I just loved her winky face. It just would have been, I think, like $40 more than just ordering her off of Amazon Japan. So it was just a little hard for me to justify paying that much more markup for that exclusive faceplate. Whereas the standard one that she comes with, I think is great anyway. I love this shade of purple for her hair and on her outfit. There's a lot of nice little details. And of course, her massive scythe there just looks kind of funny in comparison to how sweet she looks with her little mischievous smile there. I've talked about in previous videos how much I adore this Kotobukiya Trails line, and I'm so happy we're getting so many characters in this. But I'll have to figure out ways to make room because I still have Emma and Fee coming. And I'm sure there'll be more announcements soon. I'm still waiting for Estelle to inevitably be announced. Hopefully she'll be next, but we'll see. But 4 figures in a single month is a lot for me, so I'm glad things are starting to slow down because, again, I'm running out of room. I'm trying not to divert my funds to figures so much, but I want to build up more of my game collection. It's been a difficult balance, especially when some of my favorite IPs are releasing so many amazing figures that I really want to own. But again, thankfully, I don't have to worry too much about too many figures coming out anytime soon. But that's everything for this pickups video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and the kind of new format with inserting a lot of figures this time around. I know not everyone's into collecting figures, so thank you for sticking around despite their addition. There are a lot of videos I have planned to help hopefully make up for the lack of videos the last 2 weeks that I hope you guys are all looking forward to. As I mentioned, we're talking about all the games I played in the second quarter of the year, so I have quite a number of games to talk about. I also have some unboxings and some collaborations that should be fun, so you guys all look forward to that, and let me know what some exciting pickups you had last month. I'd love to hear what new releases or what some retro or older games you decided to pick up for your collections. And until my next video, bye guys.